Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people whose natal sun either trines or sextiles Mars. I have the trine here, and what we're talking about are constructive angles, okay? And they're cooperative when you're talking about trines or sextiles. Now, I just did a video on the conjunction between the Sun and Mars. And would I consider that to be a positive angle or like combination? Because conjunctions can be neutral. Sometimes there's not really a gain or a loss that you can really see. Now, if you're talking about a conjunction between Mars and Pluto, you can see that that would be very challenging. And on the real possibly negative side, although I don't like to use that term, but a conjunction between the Sun and Mars, yeah, that can be really good, especially if you're an Earth sign. That tends to be very low key. This can give you more oomph, can really, fire up that engine in a sense. And when you're talking about this trine or sextile, you're talking about something similar. When I was compiling the list, I noticed that it was very similar to the conjunction. I probably could have done all three of these together, but I want to give a shout out to cafeastrology.com. I've been compiling lists with them when it comes to aspects. They really have good information. I do tend to peruse multiple sites, and now when I'm just dealing with that, I tend to just stick with them. And so when we're talking about the sun, we're talking about the outer self, the light that you came here to shine as an individual. Both of these planets are fiery, masculine influences. So they're coming from that position of the self, expressing the self. So in the case of the sun, it's expressing the creativity of the individual, the identity of the individual, versus being part of a collective. No, we are part of the human family, but we're also individuals. I was going to say part of a collective. No, we're also individuals. So, we're both at the same time. It's not either or. And this is really the case when you're talking about artists. If an artist copies somebody else and they don't have their own artistic identity, people know it and they're like, oh, they're just trying to be like so-and-so. They're just like a copy of that person. And people can, spot that a mile away. People really respond to artists who, have their own sense of self. So that's what the sun represents. And it's also what you're growing into. I read someplace that we are growing into our sun signs. And so it's something that we always have, obviously, as part of our chart and our identity, but we grow into it. And this is something I think that the rising sign has a lot, and even the moon sign can really influence people earlier on in life because, of the influences from other people. And then that individuality that represents a sun sign kicks in. I would say especially after the first Saturn return. Now, Mars is our drive. So we can't achieve things that the sun wants without that drive. So it's very important to look at how your sun and your Mars cooperate or don't cooperate with one another. If there's a lack of cooperation, there can be this sense of frustration. And I'm going to be doing the square and the opposition from the sun to Mars, because that can show up and that can create problems, not only for the individual, but for other people. because of these people's attitudes towards life. But I'm not going to get into that right now. But with the trine and the sextile, we're talking about cooperative, easy angles. And so things flow easier. This is a person. Well, first, I just want to say that Mars is our ambition, our drive, our assertiveness. So how we, do you think every Mars position is the same? Mars in Pisces isn't very assertive. In fact, you could say Mars in Pisces may be a bit of a, if somebody has Mars in Pisces, they may be a bit, I was going to say a wimp. I don't really like to say things like that, but there might be this fear of asserting oneself, or, depending on, if the person has an opposition from the sun, or something like that. If their sun is in Virgo, their Mars is in Pisces, they may be, or any opposition, there can be this tendency to be, maybe sometimes they're too passive and sometimes they're too aggressive, but they can't find that sweet spot. The people that have the trine and sextile, but especially the trine, because it doesn't really take any effort for the people with the trine. The sextile, they have to put in a little bit of effort. It's like it's baked into the trine. But, in both it's considered positive. They have a can-do approach to problems. One of the things about Mars is our anger and our, what was the other word that they used? That was kind of similar to that, but I can just stick with anger. Now think about that. Think about how many people in this world ruin things for themselves because of anger management issues. And even they can see it after the fact, that they kind of fly into rages. They, and it can be very sudden, like they get triggered and then they just blow up and they create ill will as a result of that. Even if they apologize, the other person may not trust them anymore, and they may think, oh gosh, I had a father who was a hothead. I'm not me. I'm just saying, like, somebody might say that and say, I don't want to deal with this person because they fly off the handle and it just triggers, bad memories of my childhood or something. So that can really work against them. And, with Mars, with both of these planets, we're talking about ambition. So when the person can't achieve their goals, they can feel very frustrated, and it can really bother them that they are their own worst enemy, So with these aspects from the sun to Mars, it makes manifesting things all that much easier, achieving things all that much easier, because there's a natural flow. There's, if there are problems, the person tries to solve the problems. They're constructive. That is such a big word that I would use here. These are people who are competitive, like the conjunction, but it's not in a toxic way. They're not doing it to prove themselves. They're doing it because it's just like the spirit of whatever it is. Maybe they want to better themselves. They're not competing against somebody else. They're competing against themselves. They're goal-oriented, and they want to do better than they did last week or last month. And because they believe in fair play, I should say you, because this is you, because you believe in fair play, you expect other people to operate at that level. And it's probably very disappointing to you when you find out that they aren't going to be like that. And also, if they can't handle their anger, that would not be very, you wouldn't be very amused by that either, because you just have this sense of like, hey, control yourself. There's a sense of being able to control yourself, because again, Mars, if Mars is not contained, it can be like this wild animal. Think about an Aries person. The ram can be quite active and think of the bull in the china closet type of a behavior when the person is out of control. That is not in this case. When you're in control, then you can be constructive. And it's interesting too, because you also have a lot of energy to work with, and you have it in reserve. So you can call upon that energy. And that can be helpful if you need to do so. You have a natural vitality. So, the sun being that self in this lifetime, and having Mars in a cooperative angle, it can just supercharge you. And that can be really helpful, especially if there are times in your life when things are getting a little bit rough, where you have to summon your energy. Then you have it. You're not getting drained like some people where they just kind of poop out and they can't do it. It's like the Energizer Bunny or something. And the thing is that it's not being expended. I think that's an important thing. It's not just being expended willy-nilly. You're keeping it under control. And I didn't see anything about sex drive, and that is also what Mars represents. What I would say here is that I think that it makes for a healthy type of a situation where it's not excessive. It's not, it just is natural in its flow. It's not blocked. It's not, you know what I mean? It's just kind of just naturally flowing. And I wanted to just talk about a few of these possible combinations. I'm not going to get into too many of them, where this, to give examples of how this can manifest. So let's say, I'm just going to try to pick something. Using the example that I gave of if your Mars, let's say your Mars is in Pisces, and that in and of itself can be a bit challenging when it comes to asserting yourself in life. Let's say your sun is in Cancer and you have this trine, then it would give you a natural ability to be able to accomplish your goals and to flow with it, not to have to push yourself on others to force them to do your bidding, that you just have that. And because it's in water, you have an intuitive ability to read people, to kind of get on in their good graces and have people cooperate with you. So you may use some of those traits that you possess to enable you to, the sensitivity, and those kinds of things to get your needs met in all areas of life. Whereas if we isolated Mars and Pisces, we might think that, oh man, this person is going to have problems trying to make things happen, because they're going to self-sabotage, they're going to doubt themselves and not want to push forward, feel guilty about success or whatever. And this combination can mitigate that in a lot of ways. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.